Hello, hello, hello. My name is Mia Edeltrapa, and I am your host.
And my name is Selena Guzman, and I'm your co-host for the Speak Now Productions.
And today, this podcast episode is going to be talking about anorexia. So let's get into it.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Disclosure. This podcast episode is very sensitive for some of our viewers, and we would like to note that we are purely doing this to spread awareness, and we hope not to offend anyone who has or had anorexia. So, Elena, what is anorexia?
So anorexia can be defined as an eating disorder in which a person restricts the number of calories they consume, resulting in a nutrient deficit and often a very low body weight. Its formal name is anorexia nervosa. And now, Adele, can you tell me a bit about the signs of anorexia?
So here are some of the signs of anorexia nervosa. 1 being distorted self-image. 2, intense fear of gaining weight. 3, restricted food intake. 4, excessive exercising. 5, withdrawing from socializing. 6, intentional vomiting or sickness. 7, significant weight loss. 8, fatigue. And lastly, 9, dizziness and or fainting. So, Elena, can you tell me some of the signs of what causes anorexia?
So what causes anorexia? Anorexia is often caused by trauma that a person experiences. Many experts believe that eating disorders happen when someone attempts to cope with overwhelming feelings and painful emotions by having intense control over something else. In the case of anorexia, it's controlling how much food you consume. So some of the issues that can lead to anorexia include physical abuse or sexual assault, and both of these events can lead to and contribute to some people developing an eating disorder. Another cause of anorexia is peer pressure. So a lot of body shaming, online negative comments, basically peer pressure from adults, maybe from parents, from families, from friends, all of that peer pressure that forces a person to feel uncomfortable in his own skin. And lastly, emotional health. There's this concept of perfectionism, impulsive behavior to be perfect, which can also contribute to anorexia, with the person trying to be his perfect self and getting lost in that journey.
Yes.
And just ending up committing harm to himself. Adele, can you give us some examples and some stories about anorexia?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Elena. So we have from Forward Thinking Birmingham. If you want to look more into eating disorder recovery stories, they have it on there. Again, I will repeat it again. Forward Thinking Birmingham. And
let me quickly interrupt you. All of the previous information that we just talked about is from Cleveland Clinic, so make sure to just look at their website, read a bit. If you're interested about anorexia and about other medical related issues, they have really good articles and really good informational websites.
Yes, and it's very useful and it's very easy to understand because it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Now moving on, we have a few stories. Elena, which one do you want to do first? Do you want to do a mother's story or do you want to speak up about... Oh, no, that's the description. Do you want to do a mother's story or do you want to do regaining my sass?
Regaining my sass.
Yeah, I like that one. That's very, confident.
Yeah.
Okay, here is a story of a person who had recently recovered from an eating disorder, further known as anorexia, and it's called Regaining My Sass. I have struggled with an eating disorder for 7 years. It's been a long road to where I am today, but I am proud of the strong woman that I have become. I was diagnosed with EDNOS at 16, which is an eating disorder, I believe. I think one of the type of eating disorders, with many symptoms typical of anorexia. I received treatment from CAHMS, but unfortunately, the focus on gaining weight caused my illness to evolve into binging and purging disorder. I kept my new illness a secret because I was so ashamed of being a failure. I was discharged 6 months later, and for many years I was stuck in a cycle where my self-worth was defined by my eating disorder. I had a very unhealthy relationship with food and suffered from low self-esteem, low confidence, and constant guilt. Last year, I decided that I wanted to be free from from that control that my eating disorder has had over my entire life. Eating disorders thrive in silence. So the first step towards my recovery for me was to talk to people about it. This included my family, friends, my GP, guidance counselor, and the forward-thinking Birmingham team. Being open and honest allowed me to accept my illness and work towards getting better. When it's so easy to be knocked down by setbacks, it's crucial to remember how far you have come already. The forward-thinking Birmingham team has helped me to understand that recovery is a process of self-discovery and self-acceptance. I am extremely proud of how far I have come. Regaining my sassiness and confidence means so much more to me now than the numbers on the scales or my calories in my food.
So I just want to add she mentioned this binge eating anorexia type, and I just wanted to highlight the different subtypes of anorexia. So there's two main subtypes of anorexia, those being the restrictive anorexia and binge purge anorexia. So with restrictive anorexia, that is a subtype during which a person severely limits the amount and type of food that they consume. And the binge purge anorexia is a subtype where a person greatly restricts the amount and type of food that they consume, but also has a binge eating and purging disorder where which is defined basically by specific episodes of time when a person starts binge eating. So for example, he goes on for a week or 2 weeks, just eating very small portions and really controlling himself in the food that he consumes. And then one day he just starts binge eating and eating a lot, and then obviously feeling guilty about that and intentionally vomiting and forcing themselves to vomit in order to get rid of the food that they consumed. So that is one of the, I guess, more known anorexia types, with more people talking about binge purge anorexia, because when you do vomit out the food that you eat and you force your body to vomit the food, so by forcing the body to vomit out the food, you're causing the body to struggle, and that leads to basically physical health issues with how your body functions, with your digestive system, so basically it influences your health, not only your mental health, but also the physical health of your body. And it leads to extreme weight loss, it leads to digestive problems, and it ends up many people die because of it, basically.
Yes. Also to add on, Elena, here are some tips from a person's personal experiences of having anorexia. Here are some tips of overcoming it. Have a strong support system around you. With this, you have to have, in order to overcome a challenge, you have to have someone there to help guide you and not judge you, because I think that that's the biggest issue nowadays. If you're trying to find your support group, everyone judges you silently, and you can't have someone that can trust you, actually. So having a strong, supportive system around you is so beneficial and crucial to overcome anorexia. The other thing is talk to others about how you feel and maybe journal your thoughts. And I think that's very beneficial because then you are able to express and kind of process what you're saying to yourself and reflect, saying, how can I overcome this struggle? And then another thing is start small, because it's important to go with baby steps, because if you increase on a very fast scale, you're going to relapse and always having to go back into the same cycle. So by starting small and increasing like maybe your food, or maybe adding like one little snack every day, will really help benefit you. It will help with learning what your limits are for that one specific step that you're taking and that one challenge, and how can you overcome it. Because I think that's the biggest issue. Trying to find a little step and how can you overcome it. And maybe trying a new hobby, because I think some people, when they're going through anorexia, I had a personal friend, a close friend of mine who had anorexia. She had a binge eating disorder, and then my other friend had, I think what it's called, a restricted eating disorder. They both had toxic relationships around them, and they were always focused on their body and what they were supposed to look like. And I think once they got out more and they kind of surrounded themselves with different support groups, it was easier for them to overcome it, because they felt like they weren't being judged. And I think that's the main thing with
I think
people's
the
anorexia.
big issue right now is modern kids. They have a lot of slang where they call each other, fat in a joke, oh fatty or something, and like have that kind of joke like nicknames that they give that's related to a person being fat or obese, and it's sort of their modern thing of how they speak, and it's obviously jokes and blah blah blah. But the fact is, I feel like that harms a lot of people because you never know what a person is thinking. You never know what he feels and how he processes all of that information. So you never know what happens after he goes home and how he feels. So I've actually had a friend who had anorexia, and we didn't know about it. We never suspected it. But, you know, when we found out, it was horrible to understand that a person hates himself and feels uncomfortable in his own skin just because someone called him fat. So please, 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 please be very careful with the comments that you say.
Because you never know
what
how
you say to other people, the jokes that you make, because it might seem innocent, it might seem like a joke to you, and it might be the way like you guys talk and it's like your slang and like blah blah, but it can deeply hurt a person, especially if he's going through a period of trauma. I mean, like in a normal situation, he might have thought of it as slang as well, and he would have been fine with you calling him like a nickname related to being obese. But if a person is going through trauma, then that can sort of trigger and lead to an eating disorder.
Yeah. I also like to add on, Elena, that I think it's not only the people around someone who has a binge eating disorder or like any eating disorder. It's a job to also be careful what they're saying, but it's also the person's job who has the eating disorder to notice these little things. Because I think one big issue is some people are too afraid to leave their support group because they feel that those people that they had in their life, in that chapter of their life, are so beneficial and so crucial for them to thrive that they're worried that if they lose that friend group, it will damage them. And I think that's a really important thing, is that you have to find throughout life that you're going to lose people and you're going to find new people. And with losing people that you've known for a long time, that shows that your maturities are changing and that you're both growing as different individuals in different paths in your life. So it's important to have
definitely
that skill of finding new people and for your new support group. And always, 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 always be kind to yourself, because I think your biggest critic is yourself. Taken from experience. I remember I used to like go really harsh on myself with everything. I still do, of course. But it's important to not...
You have to love yourself.
Yeah.
You have to love yourself, and you can't put yourself and convince yourself that, you know, something's wrong with you, or that you look bad, or that you're ugly. Because everyone's born pretty, and I'm not saying... Okay, so I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to improve yourself. So in the sense of, if a person, for example, wants to stop eating sugar or wants to start going to the gym every day, that doesn't mean he's anorexic.
Yes.
That means that he wants to have a nice, healthy body. He wants to feel healthy. But if you have a person who's like exercising for 4 hours a day, and who eats like an apple one day, and then who drinks too much water and then doesn't eat enough food, then that's sort of, you have to start questioning, like, oh, you're not eating enough, and then you're going to the gym a lot, and then basically you're like, you have no calories to burn.
Yes. Also, take note that if you do have a friend who's struggling with this, don't fully ask them so many questions. Find a comfortable space where it's just you and that one person. And if they're comfortable with talking about it, just ask them, hey, is everything okay? Is there anything going on in your life that we can talk about and I can help you with? Because I think that's the biggest issue, stepping up and owning it with it.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
That's a wrap.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. We're the Speaking Out Production, speaking to you next time.
1, 2, 3, let's go.